They thought it was over!
Run for your lives!
Help me, please!
Oh God, what is happening?
Ọbara agbọghị nke mmadụ, ọgwụ nri nke ike.
Anyanwụ na-agbara bịanụ n'ụnụ olu anyị, nye anyị ike.
My elders, something is wrong in this land. The gods have gone silent. For days now.
We have to look for them.
It's too late. My children, where are you?
All hail the royal house. Yes! We give praise to the king. Long may you reign. I will kill the entire kingdom and take over their farmland.
My own blood, you chose this darkness over me.
You were never strong enough to rule what I
raised a daughter.
They say, when a child begins to enjoy the sound of another person's pain, it is no longer a phase, it is a warning. Long before fear entered the land, Azuara was a kingdom blessed by both earth and sky. The soil was rich, the rivers never ran dry. Children ran freely without shadows chasing them. And at the center of that peace was a king who ruled with a gentle hand, King Obiora. A man whose name carried respect, not fear. A man who believed that leadership was not about control, but about protection. When disputes arose, he listened. When hunger came, he provided. When enemies threatened, he stood in front, not behind. And every evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, he would sit with his only child, his daughter, his pride, his weakness, Adanna. She was beautiful, not the kind of beauty that comforted the heart, but the kind that made people uneasy without knowing why. Even as a child, there was something wrong. At the age of 7, she once watched a goat being slaughtered. The other children cried. She didn't. Instead, she stepped closer, watching, listening, studying. "Does it feel pain?" she asked, calmly. The butcher paused. "Of course it does." Adanna tilted her head slightly. Interesting. That night, she slept peacefully, but the palace did not. By the time she turned 10, servants began to fear her. A maid once broke a clay pot. It was an accident. Adanna saw it and smiled. Later that evening, she whispered something into her father's ear. A small lie, a carefully crafted story. By sunrise, the maid was gone. No one asked questions, because in the palace, fear had begun to grow quietly. But King Obiora refused to see it. "She is strong," he would say. "She will make a great ruler one day." The elders disagreed. "That child does not understand mercy," one of them warned. The king shook his head. "You misjudge her." But deep down, even he had started to notice. Sometimes, when he looked into her eyes, he did not see himself. he saw something else, something colder, something waiting. Years passed, and Adanna grew into a woman who did not just command attention, she demanded it. Her presence silenced rooms, her voice carried sharp edges, and her patience was dangerously thin. She did not like being told no, and the one person who could still tell her no was her father. One evening, she stood on the palace balcony. Below her, the people gathered around King Obiora, laughing, cheering, praising his name. She watched in silence, her fingers tightened against the railing. "This all," she whispered, "belongs to me." Behind her, a young maid shifted nervously. "My princess, the king..." Adanna turned slowly, her gaze cut like a blade. "The king is the only thing standing in my way." The maid dropped her head immediately. That was the moment. A thought became a decision, and a decision became a path. Beyond the borders of Azuara, past where the brave dared to walk, there was a forest. Not just any forest, a place where even the wind moved carefully, where silence did not feel empty, but alive. And deep inside it lived a woman whose name people spoke in whispers, Nwanyi Oji. They said she did not serve the gods. They said she spoke to something older, something darker. No one went to her, except those who had already made peace with losing their souls. One night, Adanna walked into that forest. The air grew heavy with every step. The path seemed to shift beneath her feet, but she did not turn back. When she finally reached the clearing, the priestess was already there, waiting. "You came," the old woman said without turning. Adanna stepped forward. "I want power." A slow laugh escaped the priestess. "Everyone says that until they understand what it costs. I am not everyone." The priestess turned. Her eyes were dark, too dark. "Power is never free, child. I can pay." The priestess stepped closer. "Even if the price is blood?" The night seemed to hold its breath. Adanna did not hesitate. "Yes." And just like that, the first line was crossed. It began quietly. A girl went missing, then another, then another. At first, the kingdom searched, cried, prayed, but no answers came. Only silence. And in that silence, fear began to grow deep. Deep in the forest, under a watching moon, a shrine was built. Not to any god the people knew. This one was fed. The girls were brought there, bound, terrified. "Please, I want to go home," one cried. Adanna stood still, watching. "You are already where you are needed," she replied softly. The priestess began to chant, low, ancient. The air thickened. The ground seemed to breathe. And then the screaming began. Adanna did not flinch. Instead, she smiled. Power began to flow, not around her, through her. And with each sacrifice, she became something else, something less human. But power leaves traces. King Obiora began to notice. The crops were failing. The river smelled strange. Children fell sick without reason. "This is not natural," he said one evening. The elders agreed. There is a disturbance, they warned. And so, the king decided to find it. That night, he followed the whispers into the forest. Step by step, his heart grew heavier until he reached the shrine and saw everything. The bodies, the blood, the symbols, and his daughter standing in the middle of it all. Adanna, his voice broke. You were not meant to see this. Tears filled his eyes. What have you done? What was necessary? This is evil. No, she said softly. This is power. The king drew his sword. You will end this now. But the priestess spoke. The air froze. Time seemed to bend. And before the king could move, Adanna stepped forward and drove a blade into his chest. The sound was soft, almost gentle. The king gasped. His sword fell. He looked into her eyes, searching, hoping, but she was gone. You were my child. He collapsed, and with him, the light of Azuara died. Morning came. The king is dead. No one knew how. No one dared to ask. Queen Adanna will rule. But the sun did not shine the same way. The air did not feel the same way. And the people were no longer safe. Her rule was not leadership, it was control. Punishments became brutal. Voices became silent. Fear replaced trust. And every full moon, another girl disappeared. The land began to rot. The rivers darkened. The soil hardened. Even the wind felt heavy. And still, she did not stop. Because power had changed her, or perhaps revealed her. But darkness always forgets one thing. There is always someone who has nothing left to lose. A young hunter stepped forward.
Chike. His sister had been taken. He did not cry. He did not beg. He sharpened his blade. This ends, he said. And for the first time, the queen would face something she did not control. The night they came for her, the forest trembled. The shrine stood waiting. Adanna stood before it, stronger than ever. You came to die, she said calmly. Chike stepped forward. No, we came to end you. The battle that followed was not just of weapons. It was will against darkness. The priestess fell first. Her power shattered. The shrine cracked. And Adanna finally felt fear. This power is mine, she screamed. Chike's voice was steady. It was never yours. And with one final strike, she fell. The ground shook. The shrine collapsed. The darkness scattered. Silence returned. But it was not the same silence. This one carried memory. Azuara healed, slowly, painfully, but the story remained. Because some names are never forgotten, and some warnings are written in blood. Adanna, the girl who chose power over her own soul and paid for it with everything. They thought it was over. They believed the nightmare had ended. The day Adanna fell, the day the shrine collapsed, the day the darkness scattered into the wind. For years, Azuara tried to forget. The land healed slowly. The rivers cleared. Children laughed again. The markets came back to life. And yet, no one ever spoke her name. Not because they forgot, but because they were afraid that if they did, something might answer. Chike never forgot. Every night, he would sit outside his hut, staring into the forest, listening, waiting. Because deep inside him, there was a feeling he could not explain, a feeling that something was not finished. And one morning, that feeling became real. It started quietly, too quietly. The birds did not sing. The wind did not move. Even the trees stood still. An old woman walking to the stream suddenly stopped. Her body stiffened. She looked down at the ground and her breath caught. The soil beneath her feet was wet, not with water, but with something darker, thicker, blood. She screamed, and that was the beginning. Deep in the forest, where the shrine had once been destroyed, the earth began to tremble. Cracks spread across the ground like veins. Darkness seeped through them. Slowly, something began to rise. A hand, then another, covered in soil, covered in blood. And then she emerged, Adanna. Her body no longer fully human, her skin pale like something that had not seen the sun in years, her eyes black, endless. She took a deep breath, as if she had been holding it for a very long time. They thought, she whispered, it was over. The air around her darkened instantly. The trees bent away from her presence. Azuara, her voice echoed unnaturally, still belongs to me. And just like that, the nightmare returned. Back in the village, people began to feel it. A coldness that did not come from the weather. A heaviness that sat on their chests. Children began to cry at night, not because they were afraid, but because they were hearing things, whispers, calling their names. By the second night, the disappearances began again. A girl vanished from her mother's arms, another from her bed, another from the middle of a crowd. No one saw who took them, but everyone knew. Chike knew. The moment he heard the first scream, he stood up, slowly, silently. No, he whispered. He grabbed his blade, the same blade that had ended her before. But this time, his hands were not steady, because deep down, he understood something he did not want to accept. Last time, she was human. This time, she was not. The forest had changed. The deeper he walked, the more it felt like he was entering something alive. The air was thick, heavy, almost breathing. And then he saw it. A new shrine, bigger, darker, stronger. And in front of it, she stood, Adanna, waiting. You came back, she said softly. Her voice was calm, too calm. Chike tightened his grip. I should have made sure you never returned. She smiled, slowly. You should have understood, her eyes darkened, that I cannot be ended. Behind her, shadows began to move. Not people, not spirits, something in between. And then they brought them, the girls, alive, terrified. "Please," one of them cried, "I want to go home." Adanna stepped closer. Gently, she touched the girl's face. "You are home." Chike's anger exploded. "Stop!" The entire forest shook. Adanna turned. For the first time, there was irritation in her eyes. "You still think you can save them?" she asked. Chike stepped forward. "I don't think." His voice hardened. "I know." The ground beneath them cracked. Dark energy surged. The shadows attacked. Screams filled the forest. Steel clashed against something unnatural. Men fell, dragged into darkness, gone. But Chike kept moving, step by step, closer to her. Adanna raised her hand, and the world seemed to bend. "You cannot fight what you do not understand." Chike did not stop. "I understand enough," he charged, "to end it." Their clash shook the shrine, light against darkness, will against power. She caught him, lifted him. "You should have stayed broken," she whispered. Chike struggled. "And you," he pulled out a hidden blade, "should have stayed buried." With the last of his strength, he drove it forward, not into her, but into the shrine. Everything stopped. For 1 second, the world held its breath. Then, the shrine cracked. A blinding light burst out. Adanna screamed, not like a human, like something being torn apart. "No, no!" Her body began to break, shadows tearing away from her form. The ground shook violently. The sky roared. "This is not the end," her voice echoed. Chike shouted, "It is!" The shrine exploded, and everything went silent. When the dust settled, the forest was empty. The darkness gone. The girls safe. Chike lay on the ground, breathing slowly. The sun began to rise. For the second time, Azuara was free. But this time, no one celebrated too quickly, because they had learned something. Some darkness does not die easily. It waits. And sometimes it comes back stronger. And far beneath the earth, where light cannot reach, a whisper remained, soft, patient. "I am not finished." Evil that is fed will always return.